Emily Carter had faced down murderers, corrupt politicians, and scandalous betrayals without blinking an eye, but nothing prepared her for the chilling sight that awaited her at home. Her teenage son stranded helplessly in the driveway, tears streaking his cheeks, staring at the twisted remains of his wheelchair ramp crushed beneath a bulldozer. Standing nearby, arms folded and smiling coldly, was HOA President Karen Wilkins. Unaware she had just declared war against a Supreme Court judge, Emily Carter sighed contentedly, easing her sleek black sedan into the driveway of her new home. The suburban street around her felt like a scene straight out of a sitcom. Lawns impeccably manicured, flower beds exploding with color, and neighbors whose smiles seemed permanently fixed. Moving here from the chaos of downtown DC was meant to offer peace, stability, and normalcy, things her teenage son Liam desperately needed. Emily adjusted her sunglasses, stepping out into the warm afternoon, her elegant heels clicking decisively against the pristine sidewalk. Liam waved excitedly from their porch, his wheelchair perfectly angled to catch the fading sunlight. At 15 he was an intelligent, cheerful kid with a knack for sarcastic humor, something he'd inherited from his mom. "Hey, Your Honor," he teased, a mischievous grin tugging at his lips. "Finally escaped the robes of tyranny?" "Careful," Emily laughed, "or I'll sentence you to yard work." "Ah, cruel and unusual punishment," Liam chuckled. "Pretty sure that's unconstitutional." Emily reached the porch and squeezed his shoulder affectionately, enjoying the warmth that filled her chest whenever she saw him smiling again. Her move to this seemingly idyllic neighborhood, complete with a custom-built wheelchair ramp that granted Liam newfound independence, seemed perfect. But perfection rarely lasted. The first hint came later that evening when Emily flipped the kitchen switch, expecting comforting light, but instead the bulb flickered oddly before dimming. Frowning, she twisted the switch again, only to be rewarded with a feeble blink. "Did you forget to pay the electric bill?" Liam teased, rolling into the kitchen. Emily gave him a playful glare. "Nice try, but that's automated. I've argued landmark Supreme Court cases. I can manage a simple electricity bill." Liam chuckled. "Maybe it's the ghosts of disgruntled homeowners past. I hear suburban HOAs are haunted by the ghosts of violations and late fees." "Laugh now," Emily teased back. "But when those ghosts demand their pound of flesh, you're on your own." Their laughter was interrupted by a sharp rap at the door, aggressive enough that Emily felt her shoulders tense. Odd timing, she thought. But curiosity overcame caution as she opened the door. On her porch stood a woman whose appearance was a masterclass in precision. Short platinum blonde hair rigidly styled, lipstick applied with military accuracy, and eyes so calculating Emily felt she was being appraised like property. "Miss Carter, I presume?" the woman said crisply, her gaze shifting past Emily toward Liam's wheelchair ramp, her lips pressing into a thin line of disapproval. "Judge Emily Carter," Emily corrected with calm assertiveness, extending a hand. "You must be." "Karen Wilkins," the woman interrupted, ignoring Emily's outstretched hand. "HOA President. Welcome to our little slice of heaven. I noticed your ramp." Emily arched a carefully groomed eyebrow. "Is there an issue?" Karen's smile was like ice cracking. "Not yet, but you know these things have to be approved by the board. We do have standards. Aesthetic uniformity. Surely someone of your caliber can appreciate that." Emily's smile became more deliberate. "The ramp complies with every federal ADA regulation. But I'll be happy to send you a copy of the paperwork, just to keep things neighborly." Karen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Yes, neighborly," she echoed stiffly. "Well, enjoy your evening, Judge." Karen departed briskly, her heels punctuating her retreat like an ominous metronome. Emily shut the door slowly, a mild shiver tracing down her spine. "Karen seems lovely," Liam quipped dryly, having overheard the conversation. "A true ambassador of suburban warmth." "Maybe your ghost theory has merit," Emily joked uneasily, glancing at the flickering kitchen lights again. "I suspect our HOA president might be haunting this neighborhood." The next day, the mystery of the inconsistent electricity deepened. Appliances flickered randomly. Lights dimmed unpredictably. The electronic garage door opener refused to cooperate. Even Emily's coffee machine, her sanctuary, betrayed her, spitting out barely lukewarm liquid rather than her usual steaming caffeine miracle. Frustrated and tired from an unusually long day at the courthouse, Emily found herself kneeling awkwardly beside the fuse box, smartphone flashlight gripped between her teeth. Suddenly, footsteps approached and she spun, nearly dropping her phone. "Oh, forgive me, Judge Carter," a friendly voice chuckled. It was Tom Perkins, a neighbor who'd stopped by during their move-in with homemade brownies, though Liam affectionately called him Nosy Tom for his habit of knowing everything happening within the community. Emily quickly straightened, regaining her dignity. "Tom, you nearly gave me a heart attack." "Sorry," he smiled, holding up a bag of tools. "Karen mentioned you had some electrical anomalies and sent me over. I'm unofficially the neighborhood handyman." Emily's curiosity piqued. "Karen asked you to check my electricity?" He nodded. "She said she was concerned your house might have electrical issues causing unsightly inconveniences." Her words, not mine. Emily's skepticism flared. "Karen helpful?" That didn't track. But Tom seemed sincere enough, so she stepped aside. "Well, consider yourself deputized," she joked, gesturing toward the flickering fuse box. Tom tinkered cheerfully, humming to himself until abruptly his humming stopped. He stared at something hidden deep within the fuse panel. "What is it?" Emily asked, noticing his sudden silence. "Odd," Tom murmured. "The wiring has been tampered with. Someone deliberately crossed circuits. It's designed to make your power unpredictable, even hazardous." His eyes met hers, bewildered. Who would do something like this? The question lingered heavily between them, but Emily's suspicions had already begun to crystallize. Who else could it be? Tom replaced the damaged wires quietly, offering polite reassurances before excusing himself hastily, clearly uncomfortable with the implication. Emily closed the door slowly behind him, her mind swirling. Returning to the kitchen, she found Liam struggling with the microwave, a bowl of popcorn stubbornly unpopped. "Still haunted?" he teased half-heartedly. Emily forced a smile. "Apparently we have a human ghost haunting us." Liam caught her serious tone, eyebrows knitting together. "Wait, what do you mean?" Emily hesitated, not wanting to burden him, but honesty had always been their bond. "Someone intentionally messed with our electricity. And if I'm right, it might be our overly enthusiastic HOA president." Liam's jaw dropped. "You think Karen is behind this?" Emily glanced out the window at the tranquil street, now shadowed in twilight. "I think Karen's definition of neighborly might be slightly different from ours." Neither spoke for a moment, the eerie quiet punctuated only by the humming of now normal lights, each silently wondering just how far their neighborly nightmare might escalate. The morning sun streamed through Emily's curtains, teasing her awake just seconds before her alarm buzzed. She stretched lazily, savoring those precious moments of peace before reality took hold. But reality arrived sooner than she hoped. A loud crash outside jolted her upright, heart hammering. "What on earth?" Emily muttered, quickly slipping into her robe. A quick glance at Liam's room showed he was already awake and peering anxiously out the window. She joined him, following his gaze to their driveway. Her heart dropped. A bulldozer, a literal bulldozer, sat menacingly beside a pile of twisted metal and splintered wood. Liam's wheelchair ramp lay mangled, utterly destroyed. Karen stood beside the wreckage, clipboard in hand, her expression somewhere between smug victory and mild irritation. Nearby, a nervous-looking operator climbed down from the bulldozer, clearly realizing he'd made a terrible mistake. "No way," Liam whispered, his voice trembling with hurt. "Mom, that's my ramp." Emily's anger rose like a slow tide. She touched Liam's shoulder gently, trying to steady herself. "Wait here. I'll handle this." Stepping outside, Emily called sharply, "Karen, exactly what do you think you're doing?" Karen turned slowly, managing an icy, composed smile. "Good morning, Judge Carter." Addressing a violation of HOA regulations, of course. The ramp didn't match community aesthetics, nor was proper authorization granted. Consider this a gentle reminder. Emily's patience frayed. "Gentle reminder? You just destroyed my son's only way in and out of our home." Karen's eyes narrowed slightly, her smile never wavering. "Rules are rules, Judge. Surely someone in your position understands that better than anyone." Several neighbors had begun gathering, drawn by the spectacle, murmuring uneasily. Emily noticed Tom Perkins hovering anxiously, pretending to water his already drowning petunias. She fixed Karen with a hard stare. You do realize there are federal laws protecting accessibility rights, right? Karen's gaze hardened. And there are community laws, Judge Carter. I assume you believe you're exempt because of your elevated status. Emily laughed humorlessly. Elevated status has nothing to do with basic human decency or common sense. Before Karen could respond, Liam rolled himself onto the porch, visibly shaken yet determined to remain strong. Mom, it's okay. We'll rebuild it. She obviously needs something better to do. Several neighbors chuckled softly, but Karen stiffened visibly, clearly stung. You'll find that mocking the HOA rarely ends well, young man. Emily felt her blood boiling again, but she forced calm into her voice. Karen, if you genuinely cared about this community, you'd consider the human impact of your rules. We'll rebuild this ramp immediately, and I dare you to stop us. Karen raised her chin defiantly. Try Judge Carter. I have plenty of resources, and trust me, your life can become very complicated very quickly. With that ominous threat hanging between them, Karen turned on her heels and walked briskly away, leaving the bulldozer operator helplessly stranded. Emily sighed, realizing the situation had escalated far faster than anticipated. Returning inside, she found Liam bravely hiding his distress behind humor. Guess I'll have to perfect my levitation skills, he joked weakly. She hugged him tightly. No need to levitate. I'll fix this, Liam. Trust me. Yet, despite her assurance, doubt nagged at Emily. Karen's confidence hinted at deeper connections, perhaps even darker intentions. Why target Liam specifically? Was this really about rules, or had their mysterious electrical sabotage been only the first move in a larger, sinister game? That evening, as Emily prepared dinner amid flickering kitchen lights once again, Tom's repairs clearly temporary, another knock interrupted her. This time, however, the sound was softer, more hesitant. When she opened the door, Tom Perkins stood awkwardly on her doorstep, nervously clutching a flash drive. Judge Carter, he began quietly, eyes darting around like he feared being seen, I have something you need to watch. Privately. Emily's curiosity sparked instantly. She ushered Tom inside, shutting the door firmly behind them. Liam watched skeptically from the living room. Is this the part where Tom reveals he's secretly a spy? He teased lightly, masking his lingering anxiety. Tom smiled weakly, clearly uncomfortable. I'm not exactly spy material, but this might help explain Karen's obsession. Emily inserted the drive into her laptop, and a grainy surveillance video played, time-stamped only days earlier. The footage showed Karen meticulously examining Emily's fuse box late at night, glancing around nervously. She manipulated wires deftly, clearly confident and experienced in sabotage. Emily gasped, shocked despite herself. This isn't just petty bureaucracy, this is deliberate. Tom nodded gravely. I installed these hidden cameras after noticing my own electrical problems. Turns out Karen's done this to other neighbors, usually those who challenge her authority. She ensures they're inconvenienced enough to give up. Emily's eyes narrowed. But why Liam's ramp? Why escalate so aggressively? Tom hesitated, lowering his voice. Judge, I think Karen sees you as a threat. You're smart, successful, and independent. All things that undermine her control. If you challenge her openly, others might follow. She'd lose everything. Emily's voice hardened. She already crossed the line. She just doesn't know it yet. Before Tom could reply, the lights flickered again, this time violently before plunging the entire house into darkness. Liam cursed softly from the living room. Mom, Karen strikes again. Emily fumbled for her phone flashlight, heart racing. Tom, stay here with Liam. I'll check outside. Outside, Emily's neighborhood felt eerie, darker than usual, streetlights flickering erratically. Her footsteps echoed as she approached the fuse box. As she opened it cautiously, Emily's blood ran cold. A folded note rested neatly inside, illuminated by her phone's flashlight. She opened it carefully, heart hammering. It read simply, "If you want to play hardball, prepare to lose." Emily glanced around swiftly, sensing eyes upon her, the air suddenly thick with menace. Karen was escalating, dangerously so. This wasn't about rules anymore. It was about power. About control. But Karen had no idea who she was truly challenging. Emily tucked the note calmly into her pocket, determination stealing her resolve. Karen had chosen the wrong family to bully. The fight was personal now, and Emily Carter had never lost a battle that mattered. Returning inside, she met Liam's anxious gaze. "Mom? What's wrong?" Emily forced a reassuring smile, her eyes glinting sharply. "Nothing we can't handle. Karen just declared war. Unfortunately for her, she's underestimated exactly who she's dealing with." The courthouse buzzed quietly with the hum of tense anticipation. Emily Carter, poised and composed in her judge's robes, listened calmly to the lawyers before her argue heatedly about zoning disputes and neighborhood infractions, topics that on any other day would have been unremarkable background noise in her courtroom. But today, every word reminded her of the battle at home. Her mind wandered briefly to Liam, the mangled wheelchair ramp, and Karen's bold threat. It was becoming painfully clear that this wasn't a simple disagreement. It was personal. As court adjourned for lunch, Emily retreated to her chambers, eager to call Liam. Before she could even dial his number, a knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. It swung open slowly, revealing Lucas Bradford, an old friend and seasoned investigator who specialized in uncovering the hidden skeletons of powerful people. "Lucas." Emily smiled warmly, genuinely surprised. "What brings you downtown? I thought you avoided the courthouse these days." Lucas grinned, wrinkles deepening around his eyes. "I usually do, but rumor has it you've stirred up some suburban drama. HOA trouble, huh?" Emily rolled her eyes, laughing bitterly. "I moved out of the city to escape petty politics, only to find suburban tyranny waiting at my doorstep." Lucas chuckled. "Well, tyranny does come packaged differently in the suburbs. Usually with manicured lawns and brightly painted mailboxes." She sighed, leaning back against her chair. "Actually, I'm glad you're here. Someone's sabotaging my house. Electricity, wheelchair ramps. It's all connected to one woman. Karen Wilkins, our HOA president. I suspect she's hiding something bigger than just a power trip." Lucas's curiosity piqued instantly. "Say no more. I'll do some digging, discreetly of course." "Thanks, Lucas," she replied gratefully. "Be careful. Karen seems harmless, but something tells me we're dealing with more than just suburban melodrama." Back home that evening, the entire street appeared oddly silent. Usually, neighbors were bustling, chatting cheerfully, or playing with their kids. Now, however, it felt tense, as if everyone knew something they were afraid to share. Emily parked slowly, scanning the neighborhood uneasily. Her suspicion deepened when she saw Karen, clipboard in hand, speaking animatedly to a cluster of nervous-looking neighbors. Liam waited anxiously on the porch, watching her approach. "Something's definitely up, Mom. Karen's been circling like a vulture all day." Emily gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "Stay here, I'll see what she's up to." Approaching calmly, Emily overheard Karen's smooth voice asserting, "Trust me, compliance benefits everyone. Judge Carter isn't exempt just because of her status. Her disregard threatens our entire neighborhood's order." Emily stepped forward, raising her voice just loud enough to startle Karen into silence. "Interesting lecture, Karen. Care to elaborate on how destroying a disabled child's access ramp improves neighborhood order?" The neighbors shifted uneasily, avoiding eye contact. Karen straightened defensively, her voice icy. "Enforcing rules keeps this community pristine. Perhaps you don't appreciate uniformity, Judge, but we do." Before Emily could respond, Tom Perkins interjected nervously, "Karen, this is going too far. It's not just the ramp, the electrical sabotage. People could get hurt." Karen turned sharply, her gaze cutting like ice. "Tom, I suggest you consider your words carefully." Emily watched the exchange intently, sensing the growing cracks in Karen's authority. This wasn't about aesthetics anymore. It was about control and power. Karen clearly feared losing it. Suddenly, Lucas pulled into Emily's driveway, quickly joining the tense standoff. He offered a friendly smile to everyone, nodding to Emily subtly. "Good evening, neighbors. Just came by to visit Judge Carter. Lovely evening, isn't it?" Karen's eyes narrowed suspiciously, clearly uncomfortable at his sudden arrival. Emily seized the moment, smoothly guiding Lucas toward the porch. "Let's talk inside." Inside, Lucas wasted no time, pulling out documents and spreading them across Emily's kitchen table. Liam rolled closer, curiosity evident. "Please tell me we have dirt on Karen." Lucas chuckled warmly, winking at Liam. "Plenty. Turns out Karen Wilkins isn't even her real name. She's actually Karen Elizabeth Grant, previously president of an HOA in Florida. Emily's eyebrows raised sharply. Previously? Yes, Lucas nodded seriously. She was removed after causing similar chaos, manipulating neighbors, sabotaging homes, using fines to intimidate residents who challenged her. Liam whistled softly. She's a serial Karen. Emily smirked despite herself. Looks like our neighbor has a pattern. But why hasn't anyone stopped her? Lucas's expression darkened slightly. She knows how to manipulate systems. Intimidation, selective enforcement, threats disguised as community standards. She avoids legal consequences because no one wants to confront her openly. Emily nodded thoughtfully, understanding now the power behind Karen's subtle threats. She counts on neighbors staying quiet to avoid trouble. Lucas leaned closer, whispering conspiratorially, "But Karen underestimated you. She doesn't realize she's playing against someone who understands the law better than she does." Just then the lights flickered violently again, plunging the kitchen briefly into darkness. Liam groaned dramatically. Seriously again? When the lights returned, Karen stood at the window across the street, clipboard still clutched in her hands, eyes fixed on Emily's house. Lucas shook his head in disbelief. She doesn't even bother hiding it anymore. Emily's heart raced, anger simmering beneath her controlled exterior. Karen wasn't just enforcing petty rules, she was attacking her home, her family, and her community. Enough was enough. Drawing a deep breath, Emily spoke with quiet determination. "Lucas, I need more evidence, something irrefutable. She thinks she's invincible. I want her to feel safe just long enough to make her own mistakes." Lucas smiled knowingly. "Give me 24 hours. I guarantee she won't see it coming." Liam smirked mischievously. "Mom, remind me never to cross you." Emily laughed softly, though her eyes remained fiercely determined. "Don't worry, you're safe." Karen, on the other hand, is about to discover exactly who she's dealing with. Outside, shadows deepened as evening settled. Across the street, Karen scribbled notes furiously, oblivious to the storm gathering quietly against her. She'd mistaken Emily's silence for weakness, a costly miscalculation that would soon turn her meticulously ordered world upside down. Emily gazed out into the darkness, resolve hardening into certainty. Karen had set the rules of engagement, but she had no idea the game had already changed. Early Saturday morning brought an eerie calm to the neighborhood. The usually bustling street was strangely quiet, as though everyone had silently agreed to hold their breath, waiting for what would come next. Emily sipped her lukewarm coffee. The still flickering lights had once again sabotaged her beloved coffee maker, and watched through the kitchen window as a familiar white sedan pulled cautiously into Karen Wilkins' driveway. She recognized the county logo on the vehicle instantly. An inspector? Emily's curiosity spiked. Karen stepped outside, clipboard clutched defensively, approaching the newcomer with her characteristic tight-lipped smile. Intrigued, Emily stepped onto her porch, feigning interest in her flower beds. "What's happening now?" Liam asked from behind, wheeling himself to her side. "Looks like Karen's got company," Emily whispered. "Someone from the county inspection office." Liam chuckled. Maybe the neighborhood villain finally met someone scarier than herself. Emily grinned. "We can only hope." Across the street, the inspector, a lanky man wearing glasses that looked slightly too large for his face, seemed confused, scratching his head nervously as Karen gestured emphatically toward Emily's property. Curious, Emily crossed the lawn toward them, Liam following closely behind. "Good morning," Emily greeted cheerfully. "Is there an issue?" Karen's smile immediately tightened. "The inspector here received an anonymous tip about severe electrical code violations at your house." Emily raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. "Really? Strange. My electrician assured me everything was up to standard." Karen's eyes flashed momentarily, clearly irritated by Emily's calm demeanor. "You should let him do his job. Safety comes first," Karen insisted sharply, barely masking her excitement at Emily's apparent trouble. The inspector hesitated awkwardly, glancing between the two women, clearly sensing tension but unsure why. "I'll take a look, Judge Carter. Just to be thorough." Emily nodded graciously. "Of course. Safety first." Inside, Emily quietly observed as the inspector carefully opened the fuse box, his confusion deepening as he examined the wires. Emily waited, hiding a small, knowing smile. Moments later he straightened, scratching his head again. "Is everything okay?" Liam asked innocently. The inspector cleared his throat. "Actually, your wiring is pristine. Brand new, fully compliant, meticulously organized." Karen visibly paled. "That's impossible," she snapped. Someone must have tampered with evidence." Emily tilted her head slightly, voice calm yet firm. "Why would anyone tamper with my fuse box, Karen?" Karen froze, realizing her misstep. I'm just trying to protect our neighborhood." "Interesting," Emily mused thoughtfully. "Inspector, since you're already here, perhaps you'd be willing to check Ms. Wilkins' fuse box as well. Purely in the spirit of fairness, of course." Karen's eyes widened with panic. That's completely unnecessary." The inspector hesitated but nodded slowly. "Actually, it is standard procedure." Emily watched Karen's composure crumble, the clipboard shaking slightly in her manicured hands. Liam hid a grin, clearly enjoying Karen's mounting anxiety. "Guess even clipboard powers have limits," he whispered mischievously. Minutes later the inspector, now sweating slightly, examined Karen's fuse box. His face twisted into alarmed confusion. "Ms. Wilkins, your wiring is dangerously faulty. Circuits are crossed, insulation compromised. This setup is practically designed to short out." Karen's face flushed red. "That's impossible," she protested angrily, desperation coloring her voice. "Someone set me up." Emily exchanged a knowing glance with Liam, maintaining a serene expression. "That sounds oddly familiar, doesn't it, Karen?" Karen spun, pointing an accusatory finger at Emily. "You did this. You're trying to discredit me." The inspector cleared his throat sharply. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to issue an immediate violation notice. You'll need extensive repairs or we'll be forced to shut off your power." Karen sputtered indignantly, but the inspector, suddenly empowered, ignored her protests and quickly exited toward his car, paperwork in hand. Emily felt satisfaction swell watching Karen deflate helplessly. Yet her victory felt incomplete. Lucas had promised her irrefutable evidence, and while Karen's embarrassment was enjoyable, it wasn't enough to permanently remove her menace. Just as she began considering her next move, Lucas' car pulled into Emily's driveway, perfectly timed as always. Emily smiled with relief as he emerged, waving enthusiastically. "I found the smoking gun," he called triumphantly, holding a thick envelope aloft. Karen froze, eyes locked onto Lucas, suddenly looking small and afraid. Inside Emily's home, Lucas spread documents, photos, and emails across her kitchen table, painting a damning picture. "Karen's been embezzling HOA funds for years," Lucas explained. "She sabotaged neighbors to maintain control, distracting them with petty issues so no one would notice the missing money." Liam whistled softly. "She went from neighborhood bully to supervillain." Emily's eyes narrowed sharply. Karen's days of manipulation are over. She underestimated everyone, including us. Armed with undeniable proof, Emily stepped outside, neighbors now gathering curiously after the earlier commotion. Karen stood defiantly on her porch, unaware of what Emily held. "Karen," Emily called evenly, capturing everyone's attention instantly. "You talk about rules, accountability, and fairness. Yet you've deceived this community for years." Karen scoffed nervously. "More baseless accusations, Judge?" Emily raised her voice, holding up the envelope of evidence. "Embezzlement, sabotage, harassment. Your reign ends today." Karen visibly shook, struggling to maintain dignity. Neighbors exchanged shocked murmurs, realization dawning slowly. Tom Perkins stepped forward, speaking firmly. "Karen, enough is enough. We've allowed you too much control for too long." Karen looked desperately from face to face but found no sympathy. Her carefully constructed power evaporated swiftly, replaced by quiet but resolute community anger. In the silence, Liam spoke softly, breaking the tension with gentle humor. "I hope the HOA's prison uniforms meet your strict aesthetic standards, Karen." Laughter rippled through the neighbors, lightening the heavy mood, the unity palpable. Karen finally lowered her gaze in defeat. As the evening sun cast long shadows across the neighborhood, neighbors gathered around Emily's yard, offering support, apologies, and gratitude. Lucas grinned warmly, nudging Emily gently. From courthouse justice to neighborhood justice. Impressive. Emily smiled warmly, hugging Liam close. Justice is justice wherever it happens. That evening, as Emily and Liam relaxed comfortably on their repaired porch, electricity finally stable, Liam turned thoughtfully to his mother. Think Karen learned her lesson? Emily laughed gently. If she hasn't yet, she'll have plenty of time to reflect. Together they sat in peaceful silence, savoring their reclaimed serenity, now confident that justice wasn't merely a courtroom concept. It lived right here on their very own street.